students, what's your funniest Zoom class story? Some guy's mother started yelling at him, "Turn down the freaking sound, I'm so sick of listening to your classes the whole day. Go to the balcony and continue from there or just drop out already," along with a set of a few swear words. Our professor muted him, so I don't really know what happened next. I was in a meeting with my class for the first day of school, and I had forgotten to mute myself. I then proceeded to start baby talking my cat, who was in my lap at the time. It was embarrassing. I just did 8-hour Zoom calls for 7 weeks, training for a new project. In the second week, a man unmutes his call, farts the longest fart I've ever heard in my life, then when he finishes, mutes the call. I can see others laughing at his fatal error of thinking he wasn't muted, and so he went to quote-unquote mute his call. I found this to be the highlight of the week, but the following week the guy does it again. Honestly, the second time I laughed, but then started to wonder if it was some kind of power move. Last week, a kid in my brother's class forgot his camera was on during the first class and was smoking a giant gas mask bong on his face during the syllabus review. I was producing a video for some university professors on a specific medical thing for a virtual learning course. I was all set up to shoot the process, and the teachers excused themselves to the next office to regroup and have a chat. I already had their wireless lay mics attached and fed to my camera, so when I sat down at the camera and put on my headphones, I immediately heard their conversation. They were criticizing me, saying they couldn't believe they hired someone so young and experienced in that particular medical field, how I looked, how I asked questions. Oops! At least I made them a fine video. These days I don't put my headphones on until we're about to shoot. Ironically, my IT teacher forgot to turn off his mic and camera and proceeded to get in a very heated argument on the phone with his ex-girlfriend who he has a kid with. Did I mention that she's also a teacher at our school? Yeah, most awkward 5 minutes of my life before he realized. During my English class, this one girl forgot to mute herself. While my teacher was talking, she almost deafened all of us on the Zoom call answering her mother's questions. Her mother, from a distance, "What class are you in?" Her, yelling, "English!" Her mother, "Oh, the hot teacher?" Her, "Yeah, that guy." Now, even I'll admit my teacher is fairly attractive, but it does take it to another level when you get your own mother involved. Thankfully, our teacher is a chill guy and thought the whole thing was just kind of funny and kind of just gave a general reminder to the class to keep mics muted. She did not say anything for the rest of the class. We had a student in my class that was logged in on a smartphone using an anonymous login who never muted their mic once. They were outside or near a window every time. When the mic picked up a sound, it would maximize their blank screen, minimizing the teacher's lesson, which was on a whiteboard. It happened a lot. The teacher did not know who it was, and despite all of us begging them to mute, they never responded or did so, and the teacher wasn't able to mute or boot them. The worst part is, since they were connected anonymously, they never even got recorded as attending the lectures and failed for that reason alone. All of us suffered for this one guy who failed anyway. This is from a couple of years ago. I was working for a private college which has several campuses. My campus was the quote-unquote online campus. Each year, the campuses took turns hosting an annual writing conference for English/speech faculty. With it being the online campus's turn to host, we came up with the idea to make it a virtual conference, which faculty members could attend from home or go to their own campus and attend with their peers in a classroom. Anyway, as one of the people on the conference committee, my job was to host several various breakout sessions, make sure the WebEx meeting was working, introduce the presenter of the session, and monitor the Q&A. I also made sure to mute the participants once it was time for the speaker to start. So there was no live mic scenario, but one of the participants left his webcam on. During the presentation, he whips out a gigantic party sub and is just going to town on it. So while everyone is watching the presenter's PowerPoint, you just see this guy, who I had met before and was a legit 6'8", just scarfing down a party sub in a window in the bottom of the screen. Honestly, it was impressive. I was a teacher in training before classes started this year. In a Zoom call of about 200-ish teachers, only the principal and assistant principal were speaking. One teacher has her mic unmuted. Phone rings. She picks it up and says, "Hey, yeah, just sitting here in another one of these BS trainings." I had a student's boyfriend, both college, walk up behind her on Zoom, reach into her shirt, pull out her breasts, and start doing a little boob dance. She was just laughing and playfully slapping his hands away. This was probably 30 seconds after I had just gone through my whole speech of making sure there was nothing in your browser history, Google search history, or names of folders that could be embarrassing or offensive. I'm not a student, but work in the tech industry. I've been in meetings where people forget to mute themselves on large company calls, with hundreds or thousands of attendees, and we'll hear a fart and then a toilet flush. That's about as interesting as these meetings get though. This was a conference call for work, but it was a big call with like 12 people, and I'm new-ish, so I was really just listening as the senior analysts were discussing something. Call was going on for a while, so I took my laptop into the bathroom with me to take a dump, flushed the toilet, and everyone just stopped talking. Turns out I didn't mute my mic, and everyone just heard a toilet flushing in the middle of a meeting. Luckily, no one cared, and they all laughed about it, but I was mortified. I was visiting my best friend during a lecture, and she had her mic and video turned off. She then had to join a group discussion and sometimes unmuted herself to contribute something. After that, the whole class was supposed to present their results, and she supposedly muted herself again. I started venting to her how wasps are considered wild bees even though they have no business being bees because they're jerks, and suddenly we hear laughter from her professor and her classmates. She forgot to mute herself. During one of the lectures, our cat came into the room and jumped into my lap. I proceeded to tell him how very cute he is and how much I love him in the stupidly sweetest voice possible because he's the best boy. Then, a full minute or two into me praising the cat, a message popped up from my classmate saying I'm unmuted. I had a mini spook and replied with, "Oh, haha, I was just talking to him." College student here. This was last semester, so it was when we first switched to all online. I had an 8 a.m. class that was Renaissance through modern art history. Anyway, this kid in the class didn't have his mic muted, and he was snoring. Like snoring. My poor professor tried to wake him up and couldn't. She also had no idea how to mute him or kick him out, so we went on with the lecture. After about 5 minutes, she finally said, "I can't teach to this," and ended the Zoom meeting. The rest of the semester, we used VoiceThread instead. The teacher was going through a rough time, and the class could feel it. We assured her that we had done our homework and that she could take rest for the time being. She agreed and told her she would switch her mic off and sleep for a while, as we did whatever. Her husband was right beside her and the mic was not turned off. She told me, "I'm so lucky to have these students," and started sobbing to her husband. We all heard this, but kept quiet to prevent her being embarrassed. She slept well during that time, and we sent her a thank you gift collectively. I had a student give a smart aleck response to a question I asked, and before I could respond, his mom started chewing into him and hitting him with a shoe. His mic and video was on for the whole thing. Not a teacher-student thing, but my mother was on a work call. She does tech stuff with the hospital. Lots of people in it. My cat was up on her desk trying to get attention and meowed this deep, loud meow right into her mic. The call proceeded with, every time my cat meowed, her co-workers would be like, "Good point," or "Haven't thought of that," or like, "Yeah, that sounds right." My mother was so embarrassed, but she couldn't get the cat to leave her alone. I had to defend my thesis over Zoom, and many professors came into the call to watch. My thesis was about immune response in fish to parasites. Our professor joined late and forgot to mute her mic, and we got treated to this little gem. "Shh, mommy's learning about fish parasites, which is what you'll get if you don't stop peeing in the koi pond." A girl's mom kept asking her, "Who the F are you on the computer for, this early in the morning?" When I was doing an online algebra camp, the teacher forgot to turn off his mic while we were supposed to be doing some problems. He said, "I effing hate math." Thanks for supporting Ask Planet.